what you're thinking. Matthew, how could you post such a clickbaity thumbnail? Well, I'll tell you why. Because game devs think about their game every minute of every hour of every day. They think about it all the time. So much so that it can even become like a baby to them. At least it does for me, to be honest. But these games, we hope that they grow big and strong. We hope they grow little legs of their own and maybe even make little game babies themselves. This is a crazy analogy, I know, but it makes complete sense. Game devs love their games so much. They could be broken, they could be buggy, they could be straight up hideous. But man, we just love our games. We pour so much time and energy into them. I hope we love them because they're gonna kill us probably. The unfortunate side of this though is that if you're trying to make a lot of games or make progress with your game development journey, this can be a total hindrance to your motivation or momentum. And if that's the case, there comes a time when we all need to make a decision. Abandon this game baby that we poured so much of ourselves and time into, or risk it potentially destroying everything we've built so far. That sounds dramatic, kind of is the case, but that's what we're talking about today. The age-old question, which kid do you like more? I need to stop with this analogy. But really, did we just waste 4 months working on Across the Creek? Did we waste 4 months on a game that's not even going to be released? How can we know when the right time is to shift projects? Let's get into it. Before we get into anything, I first want to say this. You're never really wasting time as long as you're learning during it. Because you can always take what you've learned and apply it to new circumstances that come your way. But there is such a thing as just straight up wasting time. Well, us here at Soul Engine, we were faced with this really tough decision. And it's really never an easy one to make. See, during last Christmas, 2023, we were focused on completing Across the Creek. This game was full of heart and passion, and people really seemed to enjoy playing it. But then Cave Masters came along and kind of changed everything. Kind of felt like the new kid on the block, coming in all suave and cool. I don't know why I'm making all these weird analogies, but you get it. See, when Greg and I were working on Across the Creek, I was doing a majority of the programming. And when I tell you that it was not pretty, it was not pretty. And now that I know what actual good programming and code looks like, I don't even want to look at my old projects. I know. It's sad. But the only reason I know what good code looks like now is because we actually brought in a new programmer. His name's Colby. He's crazy talented, and we're super pumped for the future. But working with a seasoned programmer, it really brought up a lot of glaring flaws within Across the Creek that we had to deal with. With Colby, we really saw what Across the Creek was and the bad state it was in. I mean, you can go check out our latest devlog on it. It's in shambles pretty much right now. So many issues. But when Colby came on, we decided to do a jam together just to see how we all would work together and kind of do a low stakes project. And during that time, we actually made something really cool. We built a little game called Cave Masters. And if you're wondering what Cave Masters is, think Pokemon meets The Binding of Isaac. At least that's what we were aiming for. Cave Masters just showed so much promise, and people really seemed to enjoy playing it. But even as we worked on that jam and were creating something really cool, I had Across the Creek in the back of my mind, and it almost felt like I was cheating on it, you know? I may have an unhealthy relationship with my project, but it really looked like we were building something really cool with Cave Masters. And when that game jam ended and we saw everybody's reaction to it, it kind of put us in a tough spot. We still had so many ideas we wanted to bring to life with Cave Masters, but Across the Creek still needed to be finished. And we had 4 months of time in Across the Creek already. So we decided to sit down and weigh the options. And before we even could talk about those options, we needed to know what we were just dealing with. So we did just that. We had a deep dive discussion into Across the Creek. And it was a really weird experience. Since the last time we had even worked on that project, so many things had changed. There were so many new moving parts, like Colby joining us, but we were also viewing the project with a new lens. Like I said, there was so many bug fixes and abilities we wanted to add, and just mountains of polishing that needed to be done, that Cave Masters really helped us realize what we could really do with a new person on board. And with all the things that we can now do, the vision for Across the Creek had new, unforeseen possibilities. And again, we began to realize that if we wanted to bring Across the Creek to life, in all the new ways we wanted to, we would probably need to rebuild the project from the ground up. And looking at what we had just done with Cave Masters, it kind of became a no-brainer. And that realization was a huge bummer, because the realization was that this project that we cared so much about needed to be scrapped. So, was that 4 months just wasted completely down the drain? Because it sure kind of felt like it, but it wasn't. See, like I said previously, you're only really wasting time if you're not learning, because you can always apply what you've learned to new circumstances. And that's what we did here. Those 4 months of working on Across the Creek helped us realize that we needed help in the first place. And once we realized just how much help we needed, the floodgates were open. We wanted to sell Across the Creek, and I think we could have. But knowing what we know now, it would have been such a disaster. Knowing when to make those difficult decisions is so difficult, obviously. But when you're able to look back and see that you missed or that you dodged a massive bullet is a pretty good feeling. It makes you know that it was all worth it. It's also just such an easier decision to make when making the other game is just so much more fun. The Cave Masters on itch right now was made in only 2 weeks. And I know it's far from perfect, but it was just such an eye-opening experience to work on. There's so much good foundation to work off there that the possibilities honestly just seem endless. And so we're going to run with it and see what we can do with it. And hopefully do what we meant to do with Across the Creek. Make a game that's worth a price tag. And we absolutely believe that we can make that a reality with this game and have the confidence to back it up. Saying goodbye to Across the Creek was a tough thing to do, but we understood that it was necessary if we wanted to keep moving forward in an efficient way. And we also learned to let go better. We did lose those 4 months. I almost think it's worth it considering what we gained. We gained a new member, a better understanding of what a healthy project looks like, and a new confidence in ourselves that can only come from facing a scenario like we just did. So look, I'm all for taking risks. However, you just gotta put in the time and do the proper amount of research before you make any big decisions. And you need to start with why. Am I even asking myself this question? And you might not even be asking yourself these tough questions because your game is bad. It might actually be a really good game. As we know, the game dev scene can change dramatically very fast. Look at what frickin' Unity did. But it really kind of boils down to what would happen if we didn't do this thing. Would everything change, or would everything stay the same? Because sometimes change needs to happen. It's funny, being on the other side of it, I kind of feel like I got like a class change. It sounded super nerdy, but it's the truth. And I don't even care about it. So how can you know when to let go? Honestly, the first thing I could recommend is don't be afraid to ask those hard questions. And to not stop learning, because if you continue to learn, you will be the best tool you have in making those decisions. So where does that leave us with Cave Masters? Well, like I said, we plan on for the next 4-ish months to try to make that game everything we want it to be. I'll be documenting everything here, so be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can see what actually happens. But I would love to hear from you guys. Do you guys have a weird baby thing with your games? Like you love them so much and you want to protect them? Did my baby analogy hit harder than I thought it would? Because it kind of did for me, and I'm sort of reeling from that. Maybe I'm making this a bigger thing than it needs to be. I don't know. But please tell me in the comments below if I'm crazy. Anywho, thank you guys so much for watching this weird video. But until next time, keep on deving and don't be afraid to keep chasing your development dream, because you can do this. I believe in you. I'll see you next time.